This is a tricky topic, okay? The PlayStation Pro and Slim models have been announced by Sony. Now just listen to me, don't panic. It's me, Jake, here to give you all the info in case you missed anything. Now just a heads up, arguing the merits of upgrading a console and console lifecycle stuff and all that other messy stuff is really a topic for a whole other video. There's a lot of opinions out there, a lot of negativity, and a lot of hype, and then of course there are the PC players. Hello, we see you, and we know you're laughing at us. But like I said, another video. Let's stick to the facts and get started off with number 5. First of all, the PS4 Pro. What exactly is it? I think it's very funny that Sony identified it, and I quote, "for the highly discriminating gamer." This is clearly marketed to people who really care about hardcore gaming and are into graphics. The PlayStation 4 Pro boasts an overclocked CPU and more than double GPU power at over 4.2 teraflops. This is also taking advantage of the new AMD Polaris technology. It is technically sort of capable of 4K and HDR with no actual 4K Blu-ray player, which I think is a very interesting choice considering the Xbox One S does have one of those bad boys. I have a lot more to say on the actual 4K technology in the next few points, but it is worth noting that the 4K difference does make a difference. Anyone who's played a 4K PC game or watched any 4K Netflix shows on an Xbox One S can really tell you that, and most especially you can notice a difference in HDR. But, I mean, Sony kind of screwed up, but there wasn't really much they could do. It's really hard to show the difference via, like, a live stream presentation, and you know, 4K just couldn't really be demonstrated. The PlayStation 4 Pro also comes with a 1TB hard drive, with Sony saying on record that they are going to include a number of different ways to transfer your library. I'm sure that's digital and otherwise. And then, you know, there's all the other smaller stuff like a newer DualShock controller, which we've previously outlined, and a new PlayStation camera announced as well. And at number 4, it is worth mentioning that Sony also announced a PlayStation 4 Slim version. This is a surprise, the one that has been leaked weeks ago, and it is exactly what it is, a slimmed down PlayStation 4. Was anyone really asking for that? I don't know, but this is going to take over and become the main PlayStation 4 sold in stores. It's also worth noting that it definitely doesn't have an optical jack like rumored. So if you do use that sort of thing, be prepared. The thing that I found really interesting though is that the PlayStation 4 Slim and the original PlayStation 4 are both going to be HDR capable via a firmware update coming very soon. All PlayStation products are apparently going to get it thanks to a firmware patch, and like I said, HDR, if you do have a 4K HDR TV, it makes a hell of a difference. You just have to be one of those lucky few people. And at number 3, at the start of the video, I said don't panic if you're a PlayStation user, because how this thing actually works is very interesting. According to Sony, the same discs and downloads will work on both the standard model and the PlayStation 4 Pro. What Sony is now doing is asking developers to code for 4K and HDR with every single game they release. So basically, when they release a game on PlayStation, the platform, they have to have a version that works on the original PlayStation and an upgraded version that works on the PlayStation Pro. Sony is still trying really hard, and they're really pushing this, even though some people are confused, but they are trying to keep it a real unified platform. Games just run differently on certain products. It is confirmed that players are going to be able to play across Pro and standard model like nothing is ever different. What it really does, and it's a lot of mumbo jumbo to get past the real actual 4K technicality, but it's streamlined rendering techniques and a bunch of anti-aliasing algorithms that take advantage of 4K displays and HDR ready TVs. It's also worth noting that the whole 4K thing is still, you know, at the end of the day, marketing talk. According to sources that I'll link below, the PlayStation 4 Pro for most of the games still doesn't quite hit actual 4K resolution. What it does do is provide a lot of fancy upscaling tech, allowing developers to produce their games and make them look substantially better on something that is a 4K TV or a 4K resolution monitor. Developers have gone on record saying that the resolutions are 90% close to what 4K actually technically is, but a lot of these games are fancy games that are above 1080p. PlayStation showed off a bunch of different games that are working on PlayStation Pro with bumped up graphics and resolution for games like that upcoming Spider-Man. They showed some Deus Ex, Tomb Raider, Watch Dogs 2, Horizon Zero Dawn, and even some Mass Effect. What the PlayStation 4 Pro comes down to is how the actual high-def rendering of the Pro works. It's fancy high-def rendering, not necessarily native 4K resolution. I think what was very cool was that Mark Cerny said that it's still relatively easy for smaller game teams to develop games for PlayStation platform. But Sony also tried to stress, and I don't think they really succeeded in this, but that's just me, that you don't need a 4K or HDR TV to take advantage of this PlayStation 4 Pro. They showed off some fancy anti-aliasing in Shadow of Mordor, and also touted that games will get higher scene complexity, dynamic reflections, better textures, and stuff like that, but we really got no concrete info on whether or not this will just generally improve a game's frame rate, which I gotta say is what a lot of players are really concerned about. PlayStation 4 Pro is also getting a Netflix app at launch with over 600 hours of 4K content. I gotta say, if you haven't watched a Marvel show in 4K, you haven't lived. Does that sound super elitist of me? Yes, it does. Sorry. sorry. YouTube is also developing a 4K app for PlayStation, which we are pretty excited about. And it is very important that many games you already own may be upgraded via a patch, and they're calling this forward compatibility. This will make games that you already own compatible and more upgraded and fancier looking on the PlayStation 4 Pro. And at number 2, speaking of this forward compatibility, Sony already does have a number of confirmed games for the console, and you need to know that all games will work on this console, but these games announced will take advantage of that 4K-ish resolution and scaling and extra graphical horsepower. And once again, I gotta reiterate, if these are games you already own, they will be patched to work better on the PlayStation 4 Pro, apparently. And at number 1, let's get the housekeeping out of the way. The PlayStation 4 Slim is going to start at $299, launching September 15th in quote-unquote most markets, and it's going to be HDR capable via a firmware update. To honestly my surprise, the PlayStation 4 Pro is releasing November 10th at $399. I thought we were going to have to wait a while, and this is really interesting, and honestly now the ball is in Xbox One Scorpio's court. Andrew House closed out the ceremony saying, "The choice ultimately remains with gamers," and I think that's really damn apt. Maybe even more than Sony was expecting to say. This is a weird future and possibly setting a very interesting precedent for consoles. I see a lot of people very divided on this whole subject, even us at GameRank, so we're looking forward to talking about this more soon, guys. But I do want to know in the comments what you think about the PlayStation 4 Pro. Anything you want, especially if you hate it or if you love it, I want to hear from those two extremes. Let us know in the comments whether or not you're going to buy one, or you're going to ditch consoles altogether and jump to PC, or if you just don't care and you're going to stick with your clicking the like button helps us out a ton and we really appreciate it. And subscribing is a good idea if you're new, because we put out videos every single day. But as always, thanks for watching, and we'll see you guys next time. I gotta go to bed.